muito grande para nós. Então, hoje nós vamos dar seguimento, né, a essas discussões com essa mesa da manhã, que a nossa bibliotecária-chefe da Biblioteca do Rio, Maria Henrique Simons, Evelise Freire, vai coordenar. Então, obrigado e bom trabalho para todos nós.
Bom dia a todos. Daremos início, então, ao segundo dia de trabalhos, com a mesa Digital ou Impresso, o que há de melhor nos dois mundos. Assim, chamando a Catiuxa, Portal Periódicos CAPES, à mesa. Com o tema Estratégias e Perspectivas do Portal de Periódicos CAPES, a Biblioteca Virtual Brasileira da Informação Científica, parte 2. Chamando também IE Business School, da Espanha, Belém Real, também, por favor, à mesa. Tecnologia, Inovação e Universidades Acadêmicas, o caso da IE Biblioteca. A seguir, Sara Pritchard, diretora da Biblioteca da Universidade de Northwestern, falando sobre planejamento, uma biblioteca digital. Os palestrantes terão 40 minutos, a seguir, o primeiro, o segundo e terceiro. A partir terminado, nós chamaremos, estará aberto para perguntas.
Bom dia a todos. Eu vou, na verdade, dar uma continuação para o assunto que eu comecei ontem, que é o portal de periódicos. Deixei algumas coisas que eu acredito que eu tenha abordado de forma mais leve, então hoje eu queria dar uma aprofundada em alguns tópicos. Ok? Bom, ontem a gente falou um pouquinho do histórico do portal, do funcionamento, a questão da relação que a gente faz, os estudos que a gente faz sobre o portal, o impacto que ele tem na pós-graduação. Nesse sentido, então, continuo esse assunto, esse tópico, com relação aos impactos do portal, seja na parte científica e tecnológica, como atendimento às demandas da sociedade, seja acadêmica, a parte de produção, ou mesmo governamental, para o desenvolvimento das atividades. A questão do aumento da produção científica, que é uma das metas do Plano Nacional de Pós-Graduação. Então, um alinhamento das atividades do portal com relação a esse plano. A questão do impacto econômico, então, o portal no Brasil atuando como forma de mediar os valores que estão sendo praticados pelas editoras, né, que são cobrados. A CAPES, então, tem, acredito, um papel importante na mediação desses custos, nessas cobranças, nesses valores que são apresentados para as instituições no país. E essa questão da negociação, então, a gente conseguir fazer uma redução por meio dessa intermediação que a CAPES tem, né? Então, tem também um impacto econômico. E a parte do impacto social, que seria a democratização do acesso. Então, uma instituição não tem mais o acesso, um orçamento que depende, que regula, na verdade, o desenvolvimento das suas atividades ou o desenvolvimento da biblioteca. O portal está para auxiliar todas as instituições, oferecendo acesso igualitário para todas elas. Aqui é um pouquinho do visual que eu comentei ontem. Então, se vocês virem lá em cima, ele começou com uma página amarela, apenas uma página para você acessar o link do conteúdo que você queria, chegando a evoluir para uma página mais complexa, que eram os links. Então, de qualquer forma, você tinha que saber o que você estava querendo procurar no portal, ou saber o título de um periódico, o título de uma base de dados. Então, usuários que estavam começando a sua pesquisa, o desenvolvimento da sua pesquisa, ficavam um pouco perdidos, porque não sabiam como é que ele poderia se movimentar, como é que ele poderia iniciar sua pesquisa. E desde então, ouvindo essas solicitações, as demandas da comunidade acadêmica, o portal evoluiu, passando pela versão que foi lançada em 2009, na qual ele acessava, então, um conteúdo, independente de precisar saber do nome, ele podia ali pesquisar pela área de conhecimento dele, ou mesmo por um tópico, para descobrir o que estava, então, disponível para ele. E aí, a questão que a gente colocou, então, do portal ter um centro, um ponto de referência para o usuário, no sentido de, aqui eu descubro o que eu preciso. A partir do portal, eu consigo acessar o conteúdo que eu preciso fazer a leitura, que eu preciso utilizar para desenvolver minhas pesquisas. Hoje, o portal, como eu falei, é alimentado por vários sistemas. A parte de alimentação, a gestão do conteúdo é feito pelo Joomla, que é um software livre. Então, toda a parte de gestão das notícias, das informações a respeito do acervo, das informações de treinamentos disponíveis é cadastrado pela equipe no Joomla. A partir daí, a gente também utiliza o SFX, que é da Exlibris, que permite a gente fazer a gestão dos recursos eletrônicos disponíveis, sejam títulos de periódicos que o portal assina, sejam documentos que estão sendo assinados, livros, ou relatórios, ou proceedings. Então, a partir do SFX, a gente faz a gestão desse conteúdo. O MetaLib, que também da Exlibris, que permite a gente cadastrar as bases de dados para fazer o acesso. Uma coisa que eu, voltando um pouquinho, queria destacar, o SFX tem uma coisa muito boa, gente, que é a possibilidade de fazer a gestão do histórico do periódico, ou seja, ele resgata toda a trajetória da publicação. Se ele mudou de nome, se ele tinha um nome antigamente diferente, se ele se dividiu em dois, então ele faz esse mapeamento. Isso é uma coisa que para a gente foi muito boa, a gente conseguir fazer um levantamento, acompanhar a evolução, então, dos títulos. A questão da introdução da metabusca também, que é a tecnologia que permite que o usuário pesquise em várias bases de dados ao mesmo tempo, então ampliando o escopo de pesquisa dele, utilizando fontes de informação que às vezes ele desconhecia, né? Então, inclusive, otimizando o acervo do portal. Né, o usuário, então, consegue fazer isso a partir da metabusca, que é a busca por assunto que está disponível hoje no portal, que foi implementada em 2012. Então, antes ele não podia fazer uma pesquisa por assunto, ele tinha que saber o título da revista, ou da base de dados, ou da publicação que ele queria para poder acessar. E aí, a partir da implantação desse sistema, ele consegue, então, pesquisar em todo o conteúdo. A partir de um mega índice também que é feito, ou seja, o Primo, que é o que a gente utiliza, ele faz uma indexação de todo o conteúdo assinado pelo portal, cria um índice que é colocado na nuvem, e aí o usuário faz a sua pesquisa. Assim que ele faz a pesquisa, ele busca os resultados e apresenta imediatamente. Então, ali o usuário já consegue acessar, ter uma visão do que está acontecendo, da pesquisa que ele está querendo desenvolver, como é que ele vai se movimentar. Então, como eu falei, é um índice geral, que ele faz uma indexação de todo o conteúdo e retorna para o usuário com o resultado que ele recuperou. A partir desse momento, então, ele se movimenta. Ele também pode, a partir do portal, fazer uma pesquisa em bases de dados selecionadas, em vez de utilizar em todo o conteúdo, que é o MetaLib Plus. Então, você consegue fazer uma pesquisa geral no portal de periódicos, ou então, a partir do portal, você selecionar algumas bases de dados para pesquisa. Isso também é possível no portal. Eu queria falar também um pouquinho da National Geographic, porque ontem eu comentei, acho que bem en passant, da política que o portal está utilizando agora de acesso aberto, né, de acesso para todos os brasileiros. Então, hoje temos 2 conteúdos, que é a Britannica Scholar, que é para auxiliar a educação básica, que a CAPES também recebeu essa missão, de auxiliar a formação de professores da educação básica. E temos também a National Geographic, que está aberta para todos os brasileiros. Então, qualquer lugar do país, qualquer computador localizado no Brasil, consegue acessar todas as publicações da National Geographic. Tá? Está disponível. Com relação ao acesso remoto, algumas pessoas me perguntaram. Então, a CAPES vem atuando como forma de auxiliar as instituições junto com a RNP, desenvolvendo esse projeto que é a Comunidade Acadêmica Federada. Então, é elaborada uma rede de confiança na qual a instituição começa a participar, então, fornecendo acessos de identificação dos seus usuários para que o acesso seja liberado ao conteúdo assinado pelo portal, né? O conceito está de ter uma infraestrutura ali que autentique o usuário, no sentido, olha, a instituição fornece o cadastramento do seu usuário para validação. É como se fosse uma rede de confiança no sentido de eu preciso de uma chave para poder entrar numa porta e consultar as informações. Consultei as informações, eu fecho essa porta e mantenho, porque tem muito questionamento com relação à segurança, né, pela TI. Então, é mais ou menos isso. Eu vou ali, quando ele está acessando o browser, o acesso ao portal vai no provedor de identidade, que é quem está oferecendo, na verdade, autenticando a credencial daquele usuário. O browser volta, dando a validação, e acessa o provedor de serviço, que seria o portal de periódicos, né, o que a gente chama de autenticação federada. Para instituições que gostariam de participar, basta encaminhar um e-mail então, para atendimento@café.rnp.br e iniciar o seu processo de participação. Existe troca de documentação, como eu falei, as pessoas responsáveis da área de TI dentro da instituição têm que ir a Brasília fazer um treinamento, participam de um servidor de identidade de teste, que é a Chimarrão, que é uma rede que já existe há mais tempo antes da Café, que foi quem iniciou todo esse processo, e é a partir, então, das atividades que são desenvolvidas, da homologação, dos testes que são feitos mesmo para a liberação desse acesso, então ele começa a participar da federação, que é a Café. Com relação à preservação digital, eu falei um pouquinho ontem do Pórtico e do Clogs, então só retomando aqui, a CAPES já participa do Pórtico, tá? Que é um serviço de preservação digital. Então a gente está tentando aí manter todo o acesso ao conteúdo, porque a gente sabe da movimentação das editoras, principalmente das agregadoras, coloca um título hoje, amanhã saiu, então a gente quer garantir que o que a gente contratou vai permanecer disponível no portal. É importante, inclusive, a gente solicita que todas as editoras participem dessas iniciativas, como forma da gente manter, porque hoje nem tudo está coberto, porque algumas editoras não participam. Então, a gente tem conversado muito com eles, incluindo, inclusive, nos nossos contratos, cláusulas de PCA, que é o Post-Cancellation Access. Como é que eu posso manter o acesso àquele conteúdo que eu contratei se você deixar de me oferecer acesso? Então, isso também hoje faz parte dos contratos da CAPES. Tá? Quem tiver interesse, tem uma lista de publicações que são cobertas pelo Pórtico nesse link. Depois, se quiser, eu posso passar. Então, a gente consegue hoje acessar, independente de onde esteja a central de dados do Pórtico, de qualquer lugar a gente consegue acessar. E estamos tentando trazer também um Pórtico para ter um servidor no Brasil. Tá? A mesma coisa do Logs, também é outro, se complementam, na verdade, é outro serviço de preservação digital. Entretanto, nesse modelo tem uma participação, então, de todas as unidades acadêmicas, institutos de pesquisa e dos próprios editores. Ali a gente conversa sobre como é que pode colocar o conteúdo, preservar esse conteúdo, caso aconteça alguma coisa, né? No sentido de algum desastre, alguma interrupção do acesso, a gente tem a manutenção. Inclusive, o Pórtico é uma iniciativa interessante, porque ele, inclusive, adota, vamos dizer assim, conteúdos que ficaram órfãos, como está aqui na apresentação, por exemplo, alguma revista que deixou de ser publicada, que não tem mais uma editora responsável pela editoração, pela manutenção do acesso àquele conteúdo, o Pórtico puxa para si e, vamos dizer assim, adota esse conteúdo. A mesma coisa, a gente também está tentando trazer vamos dizer assim, um repositório para o Brasil, então estamos tentando instalar na RNP um servidor que também fique aqui para acesso a esse conteúdo. E com relação à produção científica brasileira, eu queria dar um destaque aqui para o banco de teses. A gente comentou muito ontem sobre repositórios, e o banco de teses não é repositório, mas com certeza é uma referência da produção científica com relação à pós-graduação. É aqui que você tem certeza que você vai encontrar tudo que está sendo defendido no mestrado, no doutorado no país, porque essas informações vêm, então, dos sistemas de pós-graduação, são elas que alimentam esse conteúdo. O portal de periódicos, então, foi criado em 2002, né, ele oferecia acesso a resumos de teses e dissertações defendidas, ele tem dados desde 1988 disponíveis, tá? É uma ferramenta que você consegue hoje acessar esse conteúdo, fazer essa busca por assunto, por tópico, mas ela nem sempre foi assim, né? Não sei se vocês já conheciam, ela antes era um sistema bem mais simples, que você podia combinar, se não me engano, apenas 3 campos de pesquisa, por nome do autor, nome da instituição e assunto. Então, a gente desenvolveu uma nova ferramenta, uma nova interface para isso. Voltar um pouquinho. A gente desenvolveu uma nova interface, porque a interface antiga estava com uma tecnologia muito ultrapassada. Então, a gente não conseguia mais fazer manutenções, incluir documentos ali dentro. Tivemos que lançar essa nova versão. E essa nova versão, então, a gente vem desenvolvendo outras possibilidades de pesquisa. Tá? Destacando só um pouquinho aqui essa questão da portaria número 13, que obriga, então, hoje, todos os programas a depositarem as informações, tudo bem, sobre os trabalhos defendidos. Existe essa portaria que solicita que seja incluído também o texto completo da publicação, mas não diz em qual momento precisa ser publicado. Então, às vezes, se o aluno tiver algum impedimento no sentido, eu desejo publicar, eu não posso dar o texto completo, não tem problema, ele pode vir depois e incluir o texto completo, mas as informações referenciais têm que serem sempre informadas no banco de teses. Então, a nova versão, como eu falei, ela permite outros tipos de pesquisa que antes não estavam disponíveis, combinando esses termos. Ela hoje apresenta um resultado de pesquisa bem semelhante ao portal de periódicos, né, com filtros do lado esquerdo. E a cada clique você pode expandir e verificar mais informações sobre o trabalho defendido, e inclusive um link para que o próprio autor da tese complemente alguma informação, no caso de querer incluir, então, o link para o texto completo do banco de teses, ou mesmo editar alguma informação que ele verifique que está incompleta, fazer uma atualização dos e-mails dele para contato, que é interessante deixar, né? Então, como eu falei, o banco de teses, ele era alimentado pelo Coleta, está sendo migrado agora para o Sucupira. Antes, no Coleta, existem alguns probleminhas no sentido de o programa de pós-graduação que tivesse algum problema com o seu aluno, de não defender, de ter que retirar o trabalho, está com algum impedimento, ele não informava a tese no momento da coleta, então esse trabalho não ia para o banco de tese, a pessoa ficava sem o registro daquele trabalho defendido. Também tínhamos, antes a restrição que eu falei, da tecnologia, que era o Silverstream, que era muito ultrapassada, né? E a pessoa conseguia, inclusive, acessar qualquer tese de dissertação, a versão antiga, só informando o CPF do autor. Isso é complicado. Apesar da gente fazer a homologação, a gente monitorar todas as alterações que eram feitas no banco de tese, qualquer pessoa podia acessar o banco de tese e solicitar uma alteração. Com a nova versão, a gente está, então, atualizando a tecnologia que vem sendo utilizada. A gente está utilizando a tecnologia do Google, que é o GSA, né? Vamos aproveitar também essa oportunidade para fazer uma atualização do cadastro de discentes, porque está vindo muito conteúdo também, muita informação do cadastro de discentes da CAPES. Também estamos criando a possibilidade dos autores que tiveram algum impedimento na época de informar esses dados para o coleta, que ele possa incluir, então, manualmente o seu trabalho após esse período. Então, também estamos prevendo nessa nova versão. E maior atualização com relação à solicitação das alterações dos trabalhos, né? Então, hoje a pessoa vai precisar fazer um cadastro junto à CAPES para poder solicitar essa alteração dos dados disponíveis. Como eu já falei, ele tem uma possibilidade de fazer a pesquisa combinando os campos. Essa aqui a gente já mostrei um pouquinho na tela de resultados, mas ele também mostra para você as estratégias que você está adotando, semelhante ao portal de periódicos. A alteração continua disponível. Como eu falei, tem agora a solicitação de um cadastro para alteração no sistema. Após a identificação, então, ele é levado para esse formulário para fazer as alterações dos seus dados, ou seja, uma coisa mais segura, mais... E aí a gente está agora numa segunda etapa, que é fazer o tratamento dessas informações do banco de teses, implantando, então, a possibilidade de visualizar os resultados por critérios de relevância, por tempo de data, com uma faixa de data, e a questão das estatísticas, que foi ontem que a Caterine mostrou, muito interessante no repositório. A gente está tentando puxar algumas coisas também relacionadas à verificação de citações ou trabalhos relacionados, visualizações, essa parte de estatística que realmente dá um background para a gente no sentido de analisar o que está acontecendo no desenvolvimento das pesquisas no país. Tá? Também estamos trabalhando para que os registros sejam padronizados no formato de Open Access, né? Então, de OAI, PMH e ORI, que é o de Harvesting, para coleta dos dados. e envio automatizado para o CLC, de forma a alimentar o WorldCAD. E, além disso, também deixar a adoção desse formato também possibilitar que o banco de teses seja também incluído, então, na busca por assunto do portal. Então, você também tem uma visualização melhor quando você for fazer uma pesquisa por assunto. E deixo, então, novamente meu contato para qualquer informações.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, again. Well, now, as I said yesterday, I'm going to talk about technology and devices. What we are experiencing now in the library. Well, okay. Well, I will start with two quotes, which I think are interesting about technology. This is not even a matter of maintaining the past. It is an issue of developing and planning for a future that is realistic, achievable, and most importantly, sustainable. And academic libraries are in conjunction between the automation system of the past and the new emerging technologies. Like for us, technology is a key development, it's key to develop the world, and we need to acquire, manage, and deliver the best information to support research and learning. So we need to keep on discovering new emerging technologies and apply them to our services and products. We know this is also about the economic situation and about the ability of the users to manage the computing. But we think that in the future, everything will be more globalized and accessible for everybody. So maybe it's time now to start using the technology to do experiments for them, and it's nice because we create like a big impact in the users, and it enhances our brand. So I will talk about augmented reality, gesture-based computing, Google Glasses, where some projects in which we are involved now. The first of all is augmented reality. Augmented reality is a technology that allows an enhanced view of the real world that's around us and allows us to connect to the most significant content of the real life and also the libraries. It's a technology that adds layers of information to the objects that surround us, and so they are like alive. You can go deeply into the content of the internet through the objects. I will show you how it works. I need a volunteer to help me. Someone to help me? Okay, thanks. Because we have, no, this is our brochure, which is a paper brochure, like everything. For us, this is getting obsolete, and what we did is to add our web page, the virtual library, to the paper, to the brochure. So people, if they download, there are different app for the augmented reality. We choose Layar. We have a subscription for them, so we download the app, and we are able now to access through the smartphones or through the iPads to the content of the virtual library here. So. Thank you. Okay. This is Layar. I will show it again. Layar. The app we have. So now I'm going to scan. Well, we are going to scan the content and to access. No, maybe we can hold me the. It's better. But you have to put it like this. No, more because of the light I've been testing before. Oh, is it the light? Put it like here. It was working before. Depends because of the light. No. No, that's we tried before we started and it was working.
Okay.
I don't know, but try. Here it is. Can you see? Well, I guess you can see. If you want, I can show you later during the break how it works, and you can test it. Okay, try it. I don't know if you see, but there's here appear a video, and we go directly to the video or to the yes to a video. We have also forms, more information here. Here appears another part of the virtual library. Is the loading? Can you see? There are different parts of the virtual library. We talk about services, different parts of our virtual library. So we think that it's, thank you. Sorry. Thank you, it's okay. We think that this creates a big impact in the users and that in the future probably we will read like this. There are some magazines, for example, that has this kind of technology. And people can access, for example, the making of an interview of famous people, and probably in the future, now it's very, very new, but in the future probably we will read everything with our smartphones. Also, also you can read the projection, PCs, not only paper or objects. Well. Well, about lead motion, this is another technology that we just are testing now in the library. It is a device that captures the gesture of your hands and allows you to control the PC and to read and do things in the PC with your hands, without using the desktop and not tactile, the screen tactile, no, just your own body. So let's see a video of how it works. Yes, thank you. This is my colleague in the library. We are going to read the New York Times through our catalog. This is the catalog I showed you yesterday. You can see the device is there, and it gets the movement of the hand. Well, we think that this is something that we thought in the past that it will be going to happen like very in the future, but now it's happening, and we think that probably in the future we will read and we will manage everything with our voice and our hands, our body in general. Okay. Sorry about the air conditioning. My throat is that's okay. The real ebook. I'm saying the real ebook because we think that nowadays ebooks are only archives or PDFs, and we took the example of the Al Gore's book, Our Choice. I guess you know it. And we think that in the future, ebooks should be like this, more interactive. We know, I've been talking to Sarah before, and we know that it has been extremely difficult, expensive to do, but we think that it set the basis for the future, and we think that in the future it will be hopefully we will have this kind of software to download in our smartphone and our iPads and interact with the book. It's something almost, like, for me, it's like something almost emotional. You can access better the content of the book. You can see it. Pictures, to manage the pictures, and going deeply into the content. You can see maps and locations. You can play with the book even. So for me, actually, it's like you learn more because you can access the whole content. For example, this is very fun. You can see the energy of the wind is going to the house. I think I learn better with this kind of devices. So, and also it's about also the content, but it helps us to, to enjoy more the lecture and the learning. So hopefully the next generation of digital book will change the way we read the books. Well, and now currently we are working in a project with Google Glass. As you know, Google Glass is a wearable device created by the company Mountain View for Google. It's a lens in the upper right side of the glass that allows you to connect to internet while you are enjoying your real life. You can create pictures, videos, share information, message, talk, well, a wall of possibilities. And now there's a debate because librarians are wondering if we can use this device for our libraries, and we think that yes, we can. We would like to, where we are developing like an app to access the catalog through the web, glasses, and also ebooks, articles, download PDFs, access databases, everything through the glasses. Also to find the books in the shelves. Maybe you are going with your Google through the library, and you can also print, email, scan, share. So it's another world of possibilities, we guess, for libraries. This is when Google Glass are going to be launched, I think, at the end of this year. So it's so new, all of this, but we think in the future we will be using maybe this kind of devices. Actually, the Global Firm for Consultory Foresters says that in terms of usability, it will be the next iPhone. So in the future, probably we'll be using a lot of this. We can see another video there, please, the little one. This is not about, it's a promotion of Google Glass, so it's not about libraries. There's no video about libraries, but we can start imagining how it could be for libraries, this.
Meet me in front of Strand Books at 2. Oh man, really? Hey there, guy. Hey there, little guy. Sweet. Remind me to buy tickets for Monsieur Gano tonight. Where's the music section?
In the library, we can find the
oh, yes. This is it. Is Paul here yet? Hey, dude. How's it going?
Want to go check out that new place I was telling you about?
Sure.
This truck's really good.
Hey, just a second. Cool.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, man.
It's got a new place in Oxford City.
See you, dude. Whoa, cool. Take a photo of this. Share it to my circles. Oh, I'm running late. Music, stop.
Hi, what's up?
Hey,
Hey.
you want to say something cool?
Yeah, sure. Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
That's beautiful.
Well, we are, as I said, we are now working with this. If you want more information, we can be in touch, and I will be happy to keep updated you about what are we doing and how this going, this project goes. Forgot to say that I have the leap motion here. So if someone wants to try it, we can after in the afternoon, during the break, we can try it. Okay, both augmented reality and also the leap motion. Well, these are more projects that we would like to achieve, and we are not yet in, but we are talking to them to start. More or less similar. For example, the Mio bracelet is a kind of leap motion. It's a bracelet that, with the electricity of your muscle, allows you to control the PC. I mean, the computer. So it's more or less the same as with your body. You can interact with the technology. Also, well, I don't know if you know about Google. Google is another kind of these sensory devices that, with a picture, they recognize the objects and what is behind. I mean, if you add information to the objects, what is behind that object. So it's more or less the same. There's another video, but very short. There. This is not new. It's from 2009, I think, but I mean, it's getting more and more and more.
Hi, I'm Hartmut. I'm an engineer at Google.
Hi, I'm Shailesh, product manager at Google. We're here to introduce Google Goggles, a visual search application for Android phones.
Until now, the only option for web search has been typing or speaking. Now you can search by taking a photo.
Let's try this book. Just open Google Goggles, fill as much of the screen as possible with the object, and take a picture. You'll see the exact book match in the search results without typing or saying a word.
Another good use is on a business card.
Let's try mine.
Frame the text you're interested in well. Google Goggles will recognize the text and return a result. Now I can click to call Shailesh or add him to my contacts.
Let's go out and see what else Google Goggles can do.
We can figure out the title and artist of this painting.
Or landmark information. And when you're traveling places where you don't know the language, Goggles can translate text for you. Just take a picture, for example, of a menu. Visual search technology is still in its early stages. It works best on things like we saw today. But it doesn't work well yet on things like food, cars, plants, or animals.
As this technology advances, you will be able to do more cool things like suggesting a move in a chess game or taking a picture of a leaf to identify the plant.
You might wonder what happens to all these pictures you're taking. You can choose to discard them as soon as the search is done, or save them to your search history to view them at any time.
It's available for Android-powered phones now. To download, go to the Android market and search for Google Goggles.
Well, it's all about this, like the Internet of Things. You know that this is a concept that we are moving into that concept to add information, technology information to the objects and perceive the reality completely different. It means the way we are going to see the world in the future will be in this way. So in the library we are trying to start using all this technology to do campaigns of, for the students to make them start using it, and well, so on. Well, and now to finish, this is our future. All we are doing now is everything. We try to find solutions to do all our to redefine our products and services. So we are now, I mean, working with this, with e-commerce, e-pricing, e-advertisement, e-marketing. We know that marketing is not something new, but we think that we have to enhance our brand and to create content offline and online for marketing. And that will be a return of investment for us, because it creates, as I said before, it's enhance the user experience, so it's good for our brand too, and the way they perceive us. Well, so if you want to keep in touch to see what we are doing, we will be happy, as I said before, to tell you what we do. So thanks for your attention.
Obrigada, Belén. A próxima, professora Sara.
But it's not up. Okay. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My presentation is not visually as exciting as Belén's, but what I hope to do is present a framework to bring together many of the ideas we heard yesterday as well as today from the perspective of management, which is, we love all of this technology, but how does it come together, and what are all of the factors when we look at the concept of digital library? How do we have an overall strategy? I'm not going to be talking specifically about Northwestern University libraries. I'm happy to do that in the question and answer. We do have a very extensive hybrid, great quantity of digital resources, both commercial and things that we produce ourselves, but we still also purchase an enormous quantity of printed materials. So we do a little bit of everything. Also, Northwestern University is a comprehensive university that teaches in almost every field, and that's something I'll talk about. That's one of the challenges in providing especially digital resources. I want to start by trying to define what we mean by digital library or even library, because people use the term very casually. Sometimes they say we have a digital library when what they have is an alphabetical list of links. A lot of times it starts that way. But a true digital library really must encompass collections that have been selected for a particular audience. That's what I mean by curated collections, and services to users of various kinds. It has to be an organized array. We've seen many excellent websites where we really are trying to organize the resources. And then a set of user services that add to those. That is, the material is only the beginning. There are additional services that our users expect. I'll talk about that. The business operations of our libraries. If we have a lot of digital resources and in the back room we're still filling out the bills in paper and pencil, you know, this is not really a digital library. And sustainability is critical, and we've talked already a little bit here about digital preservation. And also, I think staffing is critical. But I'll start with a little discussion of how do we actually choose our topic for this morning. How do we select print versus digital or both? And there are, in general, 3 sets of characteristics about a library and about the university or any parent institution and any user population. So what are the subjects covered in the teaching and research at that institution? What is the academic level of the people there at the institution? So, for example, is it only undergraduates? Is it graduate students, advanced research? Is it the type of university that is primarily for vocational training? What are the expectations of the users for the sophistication and depth of their actual research or coursework? And then what are the resources available, not just collections, but how much funding does that institution have? How much technical support is available? What are the relationships with the partner institutions? Can you rely on other universities to provide some of these resources? So these three areas, the subjects, the academic level, and the resources, really shape our choices about digital or print. I think subject is the most important of those three and sometimes the most difficult. It will really determine how comprehensive the digital library service can be. And we've already heard some of the speakers say that there aren't enough ebooks that cover the field, and that's quite true in many fields. So for each subject that we want our library to support, we have to consider the coverage of the core journals. Are the journals available digitally? Or maybe some journals, yes, maybe not the journals from other countries that are in that subject. What about the retrospective coverage of the literature? Maybe it's the current issues, but not the back issues. So what's the coverage of the journals? And of course, what's the coverage of ebooks? And again, sometimes it's the new materials, but not the retrospective. Sometimes it's the very popular materials, but not the serious research monographs. So that's another critical factor for developing a digital library service. Does the particular subject you're trying to support, in addition to books and journals, require film, music, media, interactive modeling, for example, three-dimensional software on the screen that the faculty member or the user is watching it twist around, chemical molecules, for example, or engineering diagrams? Do they need mapping tools? Does that subject itself require specialized types of hardware and peripherals for the digital content? Again, this is all needed if you're going to have a digital library that supports that field. One of the difficulties we face with digital content is the extent to which it has credibility and peer review for that subject. And again, it requires the librarians to think about what is considered definitive for that subject. Is it a field where all the journals are peer-reviewed? Or is it a field where they openly post lots of articles before there is any peer review? Can you post resources that don't have peer review, or must you only find peer review? And open access is very confusing to many professors, because in different fields it works differently, and sometimes an open access journal includes peer review and sometimes not. So the important thing is to be working with faculty, professors in each subject to determine how is prestige, reputation, credibility established in their field. And then, of course, for course material to support a subject, do the professors who are teaching that subject use their own material that they write and they develop, or do they purchase text materials from commercial publishers, or are they using digital sources from a scholarly society? So if it is going to be a digital library supporting a subject, all of these are additional factors to look at. Can you cover that subject adequately for your university? When we try to decide print or digital, and we all get this question every day, isn't it all digital yet? Why do you still buy print? Can't we throw out those old books? Usually our supervisors, our presidents are asking these questions. So the first thing I always talk about is first the subject, because in many subjects it is not adequate to have only digital. In some subjects it is completely digital, so it's very hard to generalize. Usually each person who asks you this question is thinking only about their personal background and the subject that they study. So you always have to find out, are you talking to someone who is the head of a pharmaceutical company? All digital. You know, are you talking to someone who is a scholar of medieval history? All print. Of course we do both. So some of the factors we look at, I'm listing here. Again, is the digital version complete? Even if it is a current issue of a journal, does the digital version contain exactly the same contents? Does it include the editorials? Does it include the ads? Does it include the back matter at the back of the issue? Can you really tell people that the digital and printed versions are identical? Sometimes you just have to go page by page and compare screen by screen. Sometimes there's content in the digital version that is not available in the print version. So how do you decide which to purchase? With journals especially, but increasingly now with books, we also look, if we're going to only keep the current information, if we're going to only keep the digital version, if there's an emergency or a disaster, do we know where we can get a print backup? And do we have agreements with partner libraries and universities about what we call a last copy? Are we going to make sure in every state or in each country that someone says, I will make sure that I never throw away my copy? And usually one is not enough. So regionally we need agreements. Everybody doesn't need to save, even if we have a storage facility. We don't want to all have the same journals in our storage. So how do we decide who will keep which? How many copies do you need? Is it 3? Is it 10? There isn't a magic number. It depends on what are the items. But you need some sort of back issue somewhere. And in some cases, a particular subject might be so important to your university that you have to keep the print even if there is backup somewhere else. In addition, we need digital backup. People have already talked about Portico and clocks. Portico and clocks are excellent and essential. They don't always provide us backup services for digital objects you create yourself. Courseware, images, specialized digital media that has been created at your institution. So you might need digital preservation architecture and services at your institution, and these can get very complicated and expensive. Server space, specialized software. Often the IT department at the university does not understand digital preservation. They think, well, we have backup tape, what's the problem? Well, it's not managed backup, it's not replicated and migrated, and there's no metadata and error checking, format validation. So the field of digital archiving has moved very rapidly to a high level of sophistication, but it is expensive and it's difficult to get an understanding of. So we're seeing now consortial efforts for digital preservation. As I said, the institutional importance of a topic depends on whether you're going to retain both print and digital. And if you're going to keep digital print at your own university, do you have enough space? And not just any space, but climate-controlled, air-conditioned space. So many times, we now in the United States are seeing a proliferation of secondary facilities, off-site storage, where We have high density. It might be robotic, or it might be just static, fixed shelving, but where all the materials are shelved by size. Everything is barcoded. It's daily delivery or scanning, but it's in a very large, almost like a warehouse, except very heavily air-conditioned, and usually a very small staff. And then we try to store low-use material, but material that we cannot yet throw out. So this is a costly option if you are going to save print. So it requires looking at the mission of that university, and also if you store off-site or if you use a consortium for your backup, can you get it? How fast can they scan it? How fast can they drive it? I live in near Chicago, where the traffic is terrible, and when we built a facility, I told our campus, you cannot build it to the south because the driving time is too long. So we build it on the north side where there's much less traffic. So sometimes very simple considerations like that have to be taken into account. There are a lot of mechanisms for acquiring digital content, and many times as we start to build digital libraries, we're very narrow about how we look at it. We think, well, we're just going to get those databases or those journals from those publishers, or we think we're going to build a repository with faculty publications. Those are two of the channels for acquiring digital, but that's only two, and there are many concurrent channels we want to use at the same time. So new materials from commercial publishers. They're also available free on the internet, some terrible information and some excellent information. So how do librarians choose from the free resources the ones that are of genuinely high quality and that are going to stay there, where next month the website is still there? In addition, all of us in the larger universities now are doing projects to digitize, usually special subject areas. We're going to digitize a selection of maps or a selection of rare books or some particular items. It's too difficult to just digitize everything, but many of our administrators do not understand why, if we receive an archival collection, 50 years of the history of the university, or of an author's manuscripts, pages and pages and pages of manuscripts, and, well, are you going to digitize that? And you think, how many years will it take us to digitize all those sheets of paper? So we do these things in small quantities by special projects. At the same time, we can partner with companies for mass digitizing. So this is like the Google Books project. Google has slowed down this project. First, they had many lawsuits over copyright, and second, they realized that it wasn't maybe going to be as easy to build services on top of those. But we did participate in the Google Books project. We had about 200,000 books scanned from our stacks. Most of these are not available on the internet because they are still covered by copyright, and they're in escrow with Google or with the Hathi Trust. But even we can't see them yet, but eventually we will be able to. So we consider this a very good investment at almost no cost to us. So we did not have to pay for any of the scanning or any of the transportation, just for library assistants to be pulling materials from the stacks and barcoding them and checking the records. The unique local content, as I said, this might be faculty lecture notes, course readings, dissertations, administrative archives, photographs. All of these are very important, but difficult to maintain because of their not being available commercially, so more of the work has to be done locally, and this is a choice that has to be made very clear at the institution. If we're going to have a lot of local material, what are the services to support that? So it is a matter of balancing the costs and the importance and the subject, the usage rights, the copyright can be very restrictive, or the privacy. We have a lot of laws now restricting records, and so if we have digital archive of the university records, who's allowed to look at those materials? Or research data from the medical school might be covered by a lot of privacy rights. So the cooperative agreements and the rights management really affect what we can acquire and how we can round out our complete digital library. Once we have this enormous array of digital content, users now expect a lot of tools in addition to simply looking at the content passively. They want active tools to interact with the content. So when you purchase digital content commercially, sometimes it has these tools built in, citation software, page turner software. But if you are creating digital content in-house, if you are using your own books to scan or materials, how do you link it to software that provides research tools in addition to the actual content? So people expect interaction with, EndNote or Mendeley, citation software, file management and indexing of their own files. So if you have professors and students downloading information from your digital library, all of a sudden they have hundreds of files. They want help organizing this, indexing it. Text and data mining, somebody mentioned this yesterday. These are separate tools, and sometimes some of the publishers do not allow text and data mining. If you're looking at commercial journals, for example, if you're looking at your own thesis and dissertation, maybe you can. Google sometimes allows research projects that will enhance data mining. Sometimes we negotiate a special agreement with the publisher. So text and data mining are still very inconsistent, but increasing demand, and often from faculties that don't understand the tools because they're so new. So data mining started in computer science and information science, also social science and technical data. Now we see humanities, history, literature. These faculties want to do very large text searches over thousands and thousands of years of volumes covering hundreds of years. They want to look at how a word has changed or how a concept has changed. And these are sophisticated researchers, but the use of the tools is new to them. So this is a difficult service for a library to provide without expertise on the staff for using these kinds of tools. Same thing with geographic information systems. So the geology department has been using GIS for a long, long time, but it's quite new for the history department or the art department that wants to study an art movement and how it spreads around the world. So they want to use mapping tools together with historical data. Image zoom and transformation. So we can digitize images as a fixed static image, or we can have three-dimensional and transformational tools that allow us to move the image and rotate and show different sides. We have faculty who have gone into caves in China and taken photographs of all the digital imagery in places where a visitor to the cave cannot actually see. They've gone up and taken photographs of the walls in very poor light. Then they want to reproduce the cave visiting experience on the website. So how do you have a tool that allows someone to pretend they are walking through the cave and looking at the walls as they go around? So these are some of the newer areas that people are saying to us, well, I want to do this using library materials. So digital library services are expanding to help people work with these new tools. And people want to be able to, of course, as I said, do searching and integrating their own information using materials in class reserves very actively. Sometimes using it in a class has very complicated copyright, or the device. If you want all the students to look at it on their smartphone or on their tablet or on workstations in the class, some resources won't display properly. So how is the material going to be used? And what is the material? Is it going to be film? Needs consultation and technical assistance has to be now provided, often in partnership with IT or faculty. How do we ensure that circulation, delivery, these are very traditional functions in the library, but they need to now have systems that interoperate with each other and with the content. And this is often very difficult because we purchase the systems for the library and the content from so many different sources. How can we make sure that all of them link together? It often takes a lot of work locally with our programmers to make the different products and the different tools work. People expect social media to be embedded in all of the digital content. People expect to be able to use distance proxy servers to connect from anywhere all day. If the student goes overseas to study at a different university, they expect to be able to access all that digital content from other countries. Now we also see expectations in what we call data management, depositing large data sets in the institutional repository, not just texts and journals. Many of our scientists are now required to deposit copies of their research data in a repository because of the requirements of the federal research agencies to protect the data that was produced using grant money. So this all requires a lot of infrastructure. Again, what I'm trying to point out is that just saying you have a digital library is just the tip of the iceberg. I think somebody used the iceberg metaphor yesterday, and it's very true. So the infrastructure for library operations can get very extensive in terms of servers. Even if you are connecting to a database that is at the vendor's server, you may need local servers to be handling user services, authentication, campus identity management, having a direct connection to the repository, to the preservation services. So there's a lot of network local infrastructure that of course requires support staff, and then you need space for both the staff and the technology. The other thing we often hear as librarians is it's all digital. Why does it cost any money, and why do you still need a building? So I'm trying to sort of build a framework that you can use to say, well, we still need money for all of these services even though they're digital, and we still need staff for all of these services even if it's digital, and we still need space. And the difficult thing about space is it has to be different even if you're in the same building. So we have to have a wireless network. We have to have group study rooms and different ways of rearranging the space. We don't need as much space for stacks. We need more space for people. It has to be more flexible. Old buildings are very difficult to redesign in this way. Simply doing a wireless network in an older building can be very expensive. So it's important to be able to repurpose the space, to have the right kinds of support, and then again to make the case for the long-term archiving of the digital content. Something I should have added to this slide that's important for operations is software for assessment and metrics and analytics. Being able to demonstrate the usage and across all of these types of resources. Also the user feedback. Several people gave excellent examples yesterday of evidence-based librarianship. So having assessment and analytics software built into your digital library is critical. This is a summary of the costs, the categories of the costs that we have to remember to look at all of these costs, not just the cost of acquisitions, but the cost of the space, the cost of staff salaries, and training. We are constantly having to retrain staff as we get new tools and new content. The types of devices, as we get new devices, we have to write new interfaces. So when people expect the information to show looking beautiful and usable on a smartphone, a tablet, a desktop, a different kind of website, different software, people now expect device-independent software, but not all of our publishers produce their content in ways that display equally well on every device. So this can be very costly, developing the right kinds of interfaces, redesigning interfaces. When I say user services, reproductions, and reformatting, if you're going to offer your users the ability to download and reformat images from your digital material, that often requires peripherals, hardware in the library, special services, special permissions, and copyrights. So the level of service you want to provide can have real significant cost implications. And of course the actual hardware itself. And the hardware takes a lot of space and air conditioning. And sometimes I feel that it was often a lot cheaper to have those books on the bookshelves. They just sat there. Now we're constantly having to replace servers. If we have a power failure in the library, the first thing we worry about is the servers. Is the air conditioning still on in the server room? Otherwise, all of our digital content is going to fail. So how does one manage all these costs? I just want to end with a few thoughts about phasing and strategic choices. So you can't do it all at once, and you can't do every single subject because, as I'm trying to show, the aspects, the details that you have to consider for each subject are complex. So I suggest always looking at where you can get the most friends on your campus or institution. Which faculty are all ready for this? Which faculty are the most demanding? Which faculty are willing to partner with you to work on certain areas? Instead of trying to do everything at once, you choose this area, choose that area, choose the areas where you know you can have an impact. Don't try to convince the people who are objecting until you already have some successes that you can show them. I think in our own budgets we have to build in regular increases every year in our own internal readiness. How do we add more training? How do we get rid of old hardware and just tell people internally, I'm sorry, we really need you to start learning this type of hardware. Sometimes our own internal readiness, we don't push ourselves hard enough. And so you can have a gradual multi-year plan for converting your own library staff equipment, staff training, staff operations. And you can be at the same time assessing your parent institution. What is the level of readiness? What are the infrastructure that is available? Can you partner with another university to develop a digital preservation service that 2 universities will share, for example? There are often special opportunities available in this way through partnerships, through grants, through philanthropy. Sometimes, for instance, at my university, sometimes the trustees at the top level, the overseers of the university, might be an alumnus, a former student, who was extremely successful as an entrepreneur in the computer industry. We might go to that person and say, would you help us fund a new type of digital service? Usually they're going to be very interested. So looking for opportunities can often be eclectic because it might be just one opportunity, but if you have a multi-year strategy, you can gradually build your digital library. Thank you.
Prosseguindo, agora é o momento das perguntas, da interação com os palestrantes. Alguma pergunta? Quem gostaria?
Bom dia a todos, meu nome é Kalina, eu sou da Rede Sírios de Bibliotecas da UERJ. O meu comentário para a Catiúcha. Lá na UERJ, nós fazemos parte de um consórcio de bibliotecas do IBICT, né, da Biblioteca Digital de Tese e Dissertações do IBICT. Temos uma biblioteca digital própria. O caminho para a disponibilização desse material na biblioteca passa pelas bibliotecas setoriais, né, por uma revisão com o profissional bibliotecário. Então, num primeiro momento, os autores vão na biblioteca, eles são obrigados a isso por uma deliberação acordada entre a Sub-Reitoria de Pós-Graduação e a Rede Sírios de Bibliotecas da UERJ. Terminada a etapa de revisão, o aluno entrega uma versão impressa, uma versão digital e alguns formulários, dados cadastrais, de autorização para publicação. Somente numa etapa posterior é que esse aluno dá entrada no diploma dele nas secretarias de pós-graduação. Então, eu vejo, assim, um trabalho meio que, talvez um esforço duplo, não sei. O bibliotecário alimenta a biblioteca digital da UERJ e o secretário alimenta o banco de dados da CAPES. Não haveria assim, uma possibilidade de interpretação de metadados entre as duas bases para evitar essa duplicidade de trabalho?
Bom, na verdade são duas atividades diferentes, que na verdade acabam resultando no mesmo dado. O trabalho de alimentação do coleta, que é o Sucupira hoje, o objetivo dele é a parte da avaliação dos cursos, né, que é o grande trabalho desenvolvido pela CAPES. E, consequentemente, na verdade, a gente aproveita o trabalho que eles já fazem para alimentar o banco de teses. Eu não sei como é que poderia ser integrado esse trabalho que vocês já fazem. Talvez vocês repassarem esses dados para que o pessoal da secretaria já pudesse aproveitar o que vocês estão fazendo.
Sim, nós repassamos, os alunos entregam para eles também uma cópia da versão digital. Então, são duas planilhas diferentes. Eu não sei se a planilha da CAPES interpretaria o arquivo importado da biblioteca digital.
Não é uma planilha, é um sistema.
Né, um sistema. Eu não sei se, porque a biblioteca digital ela gera um arquivo no formato MARC, que pode ser interpretado por outras bases de dados. Ainda tem alguns entraves. Né? A Bireme, por exemplo, trabalha para que cada vez mais sejam minimizados esses entraves. Né? Se não haveria um jeito assim de, ao importar, se o secretário pudesse importar os registros da biblioteca digital através de um sistema de captura de metadados, de Rumen, né? Para que ele pudesse exportar para CAPES. Eu não sei se os dois sistemas se entenderiam.
Talvez se utilizasse, como a gente está desenvolvendo, então, está tentando fazer essa adaptação no formato de OIPMH, talvez seja interessante de a gente pensar em trabalhar dessa forma. A gente pode conversar sobre isso. Que realmente, se a biblioteca está fazendo esse trabalho, que pudesse ser já exportado pelos programas, para a gente é muito mais interessante. Porque a gente verifica alguns metadados que são informados pelas secretarias com vários problemas, desde campos incompletos até preenchimentos indevidos, ou mesmo que não atendem aos critérios. Por exemplo, e a gente vê muito isso quando você vai fazer a pesquisa no banco de teses, de você colocar um assunto, utilizada ali alguma informação que a secretaria informou, às vezes não tão coerente, não tão relacionada ao trabalho que está sendo defendido. A gente, que é bibliotecária, a gente consegue identificar algumas coisas que não estão informadas da forma mais correta. Mas como os dados já vêm automaticamente importados para o banco de dados, a gente só tem a oportunidade de corrigir quando o autor solicita alguma alteração naquele registro. Mas a gente pode conversar sim,
Sim, eu vou te apresentar depois uma pessoa que tem autoridade para falar sobre isso. Perfeito. Tá bom?
Alguma outra pergunta? Bom, eu gostaria de fazer uma pergunta para a Sara. Sara, você tocou num ponto interessante, a questão do crescimento, né, das publicações impressas nas universidades. Você falou a respeito do consórcio. Como é que seria esse trabalho de consórcio, esse trabalho de guarda de acervo? Eu não sei se foi exatamente isso que eu entendi, mas vocês, pela dificuldade de guarda na própria universidade, vocês se reúnem em consórcio para uma guarda compartilhada de acervos, é isso? Como é que vocês trabalham isso com a sua universidade? São 2 ou mais universidades? Como é que funciona isso? É um aspecto interessante, porque eu acho que quase todo mundo tem problema de guarda de acervo.
There are several models. In some cases, a consortium of universities, for example, the University of California has 12 different universities, and they have 2 shared storage facilities. And the university can choose whatever they want to add to the storage facility, and but then it is retained permanently in the facility. They can't withdraw it and get rid of it. But once you know that a certain book is in the facility, then at your library, separately, you could dispose of that material. So there are guarantees of retention for that service with those 12 universities. In other cases, you might have a federated model where there is not a central facility, but each university agrees that they will retain a certain set of subjects or a certain set of journals. For example, all of the Elsevier journals or all of the Wiley journals, or everything for Russian literature. So one can organize consortially around designating subjects. It's very difficult to do this with monographs, but it's just time consuming, but it's possible. What we see now is a lot of agreements around shared storage or shared retention of periodicals. In some cases, there are central libraries that will agree to take on this responsibility. But interestingly, for example, the Library of Congress has already said that they would not be considered the single place for the United States to store everything. However, the Center for Research Libraries in Chicago already has, for many decades, been collecting little used and non-US materials. So they already had a large base of research collections, and we've used them in our concept that, well, if we get rid of our set at Northwestern, they have it at the Center for Research Libraries, and we're a member there of that center. So a lot of this depends on the relationships that the university has with other universities, or with state and federal agency libraries. But it doesn't have to be literally physically in one place. It can be decentralized. The most important thing is the actual governing agreement, because what you don't want is somebody contributes their material to a shared collection, and then 6 years later there's a change in leadership and that university says, oh no, we're withdrawing our materials, we're taking it out. And in the meantime, maybe you threw your copies away expecting the shared copy to stay there. So that's why we're all looking now at what are the agreements that we need amongst ourselves for shared storage. Sometimes if we feel that a certain new arrangement for shared storage is too new, unreliable, we just don't contribute our materials and we continue to duplicate our holdings because we feel that maybe this new agreement hasn't yet stood the test of time. So there is not a single way of carrying this work out, but there is so much interest in the United States that there are quite a few conferences going on just exactly this topic. OCLC has been trying to help libraries compare data in a consortium. If you look at all the holdings across these 20 libraries, what is the overlap? There are, sometimes one state in the United States will have a better organized state library association. Sometimes it's easier to do these shared agreements if all of the libraries are academic, but it's not easy to generalize yet. So there are multiple different models, and people can find out about these reports and documents about different shared print collections is usually the term that we use.
Thank you. Obrigada. Mais alguma pergunta? Sendo assim, encerrados os trabalhos agora pela manhã e aguardamos vocês para prosseguimento. Ângela, alguma informação que você gostaria de passar? Retornamos às 14 horas. Obrigada a todos.